Battle of Fort Necessity occurred on July 3rd, 1754. 1754, we have three cultures that are coming into conflict here in the Ohio River Valley. That's where this National Park Service site sits. We're about 60 miles south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in Fayette County, Pennsylvania. We're not very far from the West Virginia line. But in 1754, according to the British, this was considered Virginia. According to the French, coming down from Canada, this was part of New France. And we have American Indians who've been living in this area for nearly 10,000 years. So when three groups want the same thing, there's bound to be a conflict. A young Virginian named George Washington was given that assignment in the spring of 1754 to build a military supply road to the forks of the Ohio, or what today we call Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's what the British were hoping to build a fort, and they needed to have that road to get to that fort. Unfortunately for the British, the French would win out in that race and build a much larger fort there called Fort Duquesne. Washington, who was aware of that, still decided to build that road for future operations. And during the process of building the road, he comes to this area that we're standing in right now. This is called the Great Meadows. And in the midst of this meadow is where Washington would camp. And it's very easy to look at this area and think, boy, this is not a good place to camp. But consider that you have 300 soldiers that you have to provide food for, have a place to camp, a place they could defend themselves. This is not a bad site. It offered forage for his animals. He had approximately 60 head of cattle. He also had horses that were pulling those supply wagons. It also allowed him a clear field of fire should he be attacked. Now, Washington would build a supply base here, and it began with a very simple stockade and a cabin. Behind me, you see the reconstruction of that, and it's based on the archaeology that's been done through the 20th century. Inside, Washington would build a 14 by 14 log cabin, and that cabin's purpose was quite simple. It protected the perishable supplies. So it was not an office for Washington, it was not a barracks for the men. It's simply a large closet to make sure the gunpowder, the rum, the cornmeal, the flour are all out of the elements. So this really is not a place of refuge for the soldiers to fight from. What they would have fought from were the creek beds. Behind the stockade, you can kind of see the high shrubs. That outlines what's called Great Meadows Run. That basically bisects this meadow. And then directly ahead of me